Hello and welcome to episode 130 of the Mouses Makes Knitting podcast. My name is Mandy, sometimes known as Mouse. We are still missing my co-host Miss Poppy. She is a little better. I'm going to touch some wood. We spoke to the vet again beginning of last week and she just wasn't really eating. And she was getting quite dehydrated and she won't drink. We don't know why. Nobody knows why, not even the vet. And Poppy has always loved milk, which of course cats are not supposed to have because cats are lactose intolerant. And we have stopped giving it to her since we discovered that she had pancreatitis and some other gastric issues. But the vet suggested cat milk, which you can buy in little bottles. You don't have to milk a cat to get it. And that did the trick. She has been drinking that and we've been systematically watering it down. I expected it to be quite thin and watery and it's not. It's thick. It's almost like the consistency of single cream. So we've been watering it down to get more water into her. But alongside that it seems to have sparked up her appetite, so she is eating more. Unfortunately it's chicken and ham, not cat food, but the vet says we just need her to eat. We'll worry about what she's eating when she's eating properly. So at the moment things are looking a little bit less desperate than they were, which is good news, but she's still not really up to coming on the podcast, so I'm afraid you'll have to miss her again this week. Right, I have other things I must tell you. I've got them written down because we know what I'm like. The topping out mal. This is your last week to get your entries in. It finishes on the 31st, I was going to say of October, the 31st of March. You need to get your finished objects into the finished object thread on the Mouses Makes page on Ravelry before the end of the 31st of March. You can enter whatever you've got finished. It just has to have been started before the 1st of January 2024, even if you cast it on New Year's Eve. The other thing I must tell you is that I have started, finally, a Mousewitch Yarn's Instagram page. I'm going to link it below. That's where I'm going to share all the shop updates, new yarns, advents, all of that sort of thing. And try and keep my page for more personal stuff. That was a suggestion from my friend Caroline at Aria Bark, and quite frankly I don't know why I hadn't thought of it before, but I went straight away and did it because I'm a good girl who does as she's told. And if you believe that, you'll believe anything. Right. Members Zoom is Thursday the 28th of March. I nearly said October again. Thursday the 28th of March, which if you're seeing this the day it comes out is tomorrow, at 8 PM GMT. We're still on GMT until the end of March. March 31st is when our clocks change and we go to British summertime. So I know some of you have already changed. You'll have to work out what time that is in your time zone. It's easy enough, just Google it. That's what I have to do, because I can't work it out otherwise. Right, those are all the things, all the admin-y things I had to tell you. I've not got a lot of knitting. I know I say this, but I literally have not got a lot of knitting. Let me put this down. Towards the end, I'll show you the shop update stuff, so you don't have to watch that if you're not interested. This is all the knitting I've got to show you. This square. I showed it to you last week and it wasn't the same size as the other squares, and I pulled it down and I had another try, and while I was knitting it, it wasn't, but now that I've finished it, it is. So I think partly it was my tension had got very tight. It was a very stressful time when I was knitting it, and I was just pulling the yarn too tight, and partly I think I was right that the weight of the square is blocking it out itself a little bit. So it's just a giant mitered square blanket. There's no pattern, although I have put on the project page on Ravelry, I have put how I'm doing the squares, which is basically 120 stitches, so there's 60 stitches a side, putting a marker in the centre, knitting to 2 stitches before the marker, slip slip knit, slip the marker, knit 2 together, carry on to the end of the row. I'm slipping the last stitch of each row with the yarn in front, and I'm knitting the first stitch of each row into the back of the loop, which gives me a nice edge for picking up the stitches. So that's the inside of a seam where I've picked up the stitches. It's going great. Apart from one row here, which is of course the edge of the blanket. Can you see? I obviously forgot to slip it. I'm going to pretend I haven't seen it. The yarns I'm using are the variegated yarns from my Year of Yarn this year, which isn't the Year of Yarn, it's the Birthstone collection. Was that confusing enough for you, or would you like me to carry on? Anyway, so really that's the only progress knitting wise that I have to show you. I have knit on stuff, there just doesn't seem to be anything to show. Peter's socks, I am within 20 rows ish of each sock of finishing the foot and putting on the toe, but really there's no point showing you those till they're finished. I've put a few rows on my tee that I'm knitting, and again it looks exactly the same, it's just a little bit longer than it was. What else have I been doing? Putting some rows or rounds into the Musselburghs that I'm knitting. Nothing really that's got any visible, I've invented a new word, any visible progress that I can show you apart from this. So you've seen that now. But I have got stuff to talk about, so I'm going to do that. First of all, I'm going to talk about what I'm wearing. This is the Breezeway by Fogbound Knits. It was the very first top-down sweater I ever knit, and the very first fingering weight or 4-ply sweater I ever knit. And I don't wear it much because, as you can probably see, it's a bit big. The top is a bit big. I mentioned this a few episodes ago. I said that I've stopped knitting round yoked sweaters because they just don't fit me very well. And on Zoom a few weeks ago, one of my friends had started a sewing course, and we were chatting about sewing patterns and how you have to, none of them ever fit anybody. So you've got to grade them up and grade them down, and different bits of you, no one is the perfect proportions. Anyway, it sparked us all off measuring the discrepancy between our upper bust, which is sort of around under your armpits, and our full bust. And I won. Two of the ladies who came in joint second had a 4-inch difference between the two. I have 5.5. So that's why round yokes look all big and baggy and don't fit me very well, because essentially this part, sort of from the armpits up, is almost 3 sizes too big for me. So armed with that information, I'm going to do an experiment, but obviously I have not cast it on yet. I've got to work out some numbers. I might use this sweater because I know what this looks like when it's too big. I might use this sweater to mess about with the numbers and alter. Because the other problem I have is, you can see where the armpit is on the sweater. That's where the armpit is on me. Please excuse the bingoing. So I've got a good 4 or 5 inches more armhole than I need. So I'm going to do some maths, and I'm going to see if I can work out a recipe that fits me better, that I can then use in other tee and sweater patterns to get around the yoke that fits me. Because as I said last week, I'm in the mood for some colour work, and that is almost always by necessity around yoke. So I need to get this sorted if I want to make some nice colourwork sweaters. I think that was all I was going to say about that. Did I say it was the Breezeway by Fogbound Knits? I have knit it twice. After this one, I knit it again in... It was a mini set. It was a set of 10 minis. Firefly inspired mini set from The Lonely Knitter. And I think I did a smaller size, which fits me better above my bust, but is a little snug around my bust and below it. So I'm going to mess about with the pattern. Anyway, what should I show you next? I'm going to show you this next. There's a lovely lady by the name of Chris, whose channel at the moment is called Loopy Loop. I mentioned her to you when she started podcasting, and she's been very, very poorly. So we've been keeping in touch. Anyway, the story of what's wrong with her is not mine to tell. I'm sure she'll update you on her podcast. I know some of you watch her already. Well, she contacted me last week, and she said that she has been knitting. What she was doing was knitting things and then selling them for a charity. She's not going to be doing that anymore. She's going to be dyeing yarn. And she asked me, would I like to try some of her yarn? Who am I to turn down yarn? So it actually arrived this morning. And clearly I haven't knit with it yet, but just feeling it, it is very, very soft. It's 75/25 super wash merino. This, I believe, is a sock set. It's a 50 gram and a 20 gram. You can find her shop on Ko-fi. I'm going to link it below. At the moment, it's still called Loopy Loop, but she's shortly going to change it to Mini Me and You, EWE. This one is called Meditation, and she sent me another one as well. This there's a limited number of, apparently. That's not quite that bright. It's more of a raspberry pink. That's very highlightery. This one, which I have to admit is my favourite. This is called Faith's Garden, in memory of her granddaughter. So, as I say, I will link it below. I'll link her channel and, if I can, her Ko-fi shop, so you can find her. But it's the same base I use, I think, and this is very, very soft. Very soft indeed. I'm trying to see if that's a different base. No, it's the same. So there you go, Chris. I said I'd give you a shout out, and I have. and I will try and restrain myself from casting on those yarns at least until tomorrow, because I must not cast stuff on. On the subject of casting stuff on, I feel like I'm not casting anything off. So I've been through my whips again. It's something I do periodically, because there are things in there I know. I'm sorry I'm distracted. I can hear my husband, who's home. He's on holiday this week, though not tomorrow. Don't ask. And he's up at our eldest son's, and he's he's fixing something that's wrong with my son's motorbike, and I can hear him revving the bike, and it's stealing my brain. I'm very sorry. I'm a bit like that with motorbikes, and have been since I was a small child. That's how I ended up riding them. My mum said to me, if you've ever watched Wind in the Willows and Mr. Toad sees, I think he nearly gets run over by a car. It's the first time he's seen a car, and he sits in the middle of the road going beep 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 beep. Yeah, that was me with motorbikes, and it's not worn off. Brain. Yes, been through my whips. I've got some fingerless gloves in there, and they are absolutely stunning. I finished one very quickly the year before last, and I've done about that much on the second one. It's cabled, it's really nice, but you have to pay attention because you're working from 3 different charts in the round, and you have to, or at least I have to, have a block of time to work on it. It's not something I can pick up and put down. I need to say, right, I'm going to spend the whole of this afternoon working on it, because it takes me a while to get back into the rhythm of what's going on, because it's cabling without a needle, and yeah, they're beautiful, but I've not yet finished the second one. Things like that I know I want. I know I want them. There's a cowl that I want to finish, and I might actually, when I've finished recording, I might fish that out and try and get that finished for next week. I know it's breaking my rule about pulling stuff out the jar, but it's almost the end of March. If I'm going to wear it this year, I need to get on and finish it, don't I? I completely forgotten where I was going with that. Oh yes, every now and again I go through the whips that I've got and ask myself, do I still want this? Do I want to knit on it? Not really. Do I want the finished object? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So the ones that are no, I've fished out to show you, and I'm going to frog them. So as I haven't got much knitting to show you, I thought I'd show you some things that are going to get unknit. The first thing to bite the dust was this. There's no pattern for this. It's just some tiny crochet squares. I did the first 4 and I was totally obsessed. And then really they're fiddly. I don't think I'm using the right sized hook. I'm getting, can you see the difference in size between this pink one and that one? I'm not getting a nice finish. I'm new to crochet. I'm very new to joining in the round, and I think I maybe need a bit more practice before I try something as fiddly as this again. And it is fiddly, and I don't really enjoy fiddly. So that's bitten the dust. That's going in the bin. I only saved it this long to show you. The next thing is this. Now, this is my fake Battenburg blanket. I've got this much of it done. It is the fake Battenburg blanket because I wanted a Battenburg blanket. It's a pattern by Sandra Paul. but it's crocheted like that little tiny one I've just thrown out, and well, you've seen that didn't work for me. So I had an idea, and I thought I could do a fake Battenburg blanket in C2C, which is what I've begun. And I'll be honest, until I've just looked at it, this was going to get binned as well, because the coloured squares are great. The white squares, a little bit boring. Million ends to sew in, and I was just finding it a little bit fiddly again. I really don't do well with fiddly. So I was going to pull this down, but I think I might let it stay a little bit longer, because it is useful for all these tiny little bits. These little coloured squares take, I think I worked it out to be 1.3 grams. So they're ideal for when you've got a teeny little bit that won't do for anything else. So this is getting a reprieve. It was going to go in the bin, but I'm keeping it. I have a hair on me. I thought it was a spider. You are lucky there was no screaming. The next thing I pulled out, it's another blanket, is this one. And this is the Habitation Throw by Helen Stewart. Now, when did I cast this on? I think this was the year before last as well. I think this was 2021. And to begin with, I'd already made a mistake. Can you see I've missed a line of holes there? Sorry, eyelets, not holes. Eyelets are intentional, holes are accidental. So that was disappointing. I've been calling it my friend's Habitation Throw because it's all yarn from friends or dyed by friends. And really, I'm not loving it. So I think what I'm going to do is pull this down. I like the idea of a friend's blanket. I'm going to keep that idea, but I'm going to do something different with the yarn, I think. I'll have to weigh what I've got, but I could do another mitered square blanket because I am, sorry about that, I am absolutely fully obsessed by the mitered square blanket, and that's really part of the reason I don't have anything to show you today, because I keep knitting that instead of other things. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull this down. I've got quite a bag full of yarns to go in it. Let's have a look. This was Patreon minis from my Yarny Corner that I've made into like a magic knot ball, except that I rush and join, I don't magic knot. I've got two of these that were leftovers from my advent from Amanda at Little Lycac 2021 advent, which was the Nutcracker. I've got two of those. And I've got loads of other minis and things left over. This is some leftover from a hat I made. Again, it's Alex at my Yarny Corner. That's licorice. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull it down and I'm going to make it into another mitered square blanket. Using as much of each of those yarns as I can, and any itsy bitsy leftovers can go into my fake Battenburg. And then I've kind of got an idea to make with stuff that I've got left that I can't put into other things. I want to make a magic knot ball and then do just a granny stripe blanket. I struggle a little bit with that because I don't like it when rows change colour during the row. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge. But that's kind of the idea I have at the moment. So we're one blanket down. We were going to be two, but we're one. Then there's this. I've dithered about this. This is the Eyet Burst shawl by Stephen West, and we knit one. Lots of us in the Zoom group knit one. I can't remember again whether that was last year or the year before. And we knit them in lovely colours. And then we said, oh, let's knit another one in sort of colours that we are more likely to wear. So I started one and I've done this much. It's not very much. These are my own yarns. These two are my own yarns. This one was one I was trying to make a poppy coloured yarn, and it wasn't quite right. And this one I think was the same, but did I chuck brown over it? I don't remember. But they were both one of a kind skeins, and I thought, well, they'll look quite nice because you need, technically you need 4. I was going to do 3, so I had those two. And then there's this one that I haven't even wound up yet. That is Knit Pro Symphony Terra in dark chocolate. So it's brown and black. So I thought the 3 of those would go very nicely together. I still think they'd go very nicely together, but I think they'd look much nicer in a tee than in a shawl that I don't really want to knit. So I'm going to pull this down as well. Again, I like the yarn. I don't really want to knit the project, and I'm not sure that I would wear the project when it's finished. So I'm either going to use the yarn for a tee, or I'm going to use it for a different shawl. This yarn in particular would make quite a nice shawl. I could do a 1 skein with it, couldn't I? Just having a look and wondering if I could I re-dye that, do you think? Maybe? We'll see. But this is going anyway. This is getting pulled down. So that's another one. So we're down 3 so far. This is another tee. This one is the Somersby. Oh, you can actually see this one. Well, I've tried to show you before. I've shown you a black and white picture. Not that you can see this much better because it's quite small. But anyway, Somersby tee by Leanne Burnett, which is the same as the one that I'm trying to finish at the moment in the sort of autumnal colours. Well, this one I thought would be nice for spring. Again, it's in my own hand dyed, and whilst I love, what's going on here? That way around. Whilst I love the colours, I'm not sure they're really me, and I'm not sure that I would wear it. This, I think I've just joined in the second colour. So this one, this is Lemon and Lime. And again, I love it, but it's not really a colour I wear. Yeah, I have just started the second colour. This is the second colour. And this is Cucumber Sandwiches, which is a bit more green and a bit less yellow. And some darker greens. I don't know if you can see really. And then the third colour to go into it was going to be this one, which is greens and blues, and I still think looks really nice, but the two greens are very close together, and I think it's going to look like I ran out of yarn and just picked this one up to finish it off with. So this is getting pulled down as well. I will use the yarn for something else because I really like it, but maybe not the two greens together. I could use either of the greens with the blue in something, but not the two greens together. They are too alike. Yeah, if I do it like that, you can see this is paler, but knit up, there's not a lot of difference. And I think it will just look like I ran out of yarn. So this is going to. So that's 4 things. Now this one, I'm going to give the triangulum warning. I'm about to get my triangulum out. So if it makes your eyes go funny, look away. This, again, I started the year before last. And the idea in the beginning was to do it instead of a temperature blanket. I was going to do one of these little triangles every day for a year. And I think I lasted till May. And then I lost any desire to carry on knitting it. And I picked it up again last year. And I knit from from May till I think the first couple of days in August. And then again, I just couldn't do it. So it's a reasonable size. I'm sorry, I've got a really itchy nose. I don't know what set it off. It is this big. So I think, it's got 200 and something. I think what I might do is just kind of square it off and finish it. I don't think I'm going to keep going to the 365. What did I put? I know I marked in somewhere how many squares I'd got. Ooh. Not in that one. I have various notebooks and diaries that I mark stuff off in. Is it in this one? Not in that one. It's got to be somewhere. Other podcasters would edit this bit out so that you don't have to watch me looking in every place to see if I can find what I'm looking for. But I don't really know how. It's not in that one either. What have I done? I know I've put it somewhere. Is there anyone left to try? It's going to be a crash in a minute because I'm going to knock that on the floor. Is it in the front of this? No. I don't know then. I was sure I'd marked off. I was sure I'd marked off to where I'd finished, so I knew when I had to start. Perhaps it's in last year's diary. I don't know. I'll have to have a look. But yeah, I know I've got well over 100 triangles still to put in it, and I think think I'm just going to square it off and finish it. I did enjoy it. I think the way that I chose to knit it has taken away some of the pleasure, because what I did was I started with this green one in the middle and I've been knitting them in hexagons. So I did the green one, then I did the blue and did one either side, the pink, did one either side, and so on. As the blankets got bigger, I've done hexagons opposite each other. And I think that's, if I'd have done it in rows, I think that would have been a better idea. I would have got less fed up with it. But yeah, I've done so much work. You couldn't pull it down. It would be a case of, it would just, you know, languish forever. So I think what I'm going to do is square it off and call it a day. That's probably still more work than I want to do on it, but never mind. Oh, that's where they went. Just found my earbuds. The ones on wires, not the ones that just sit in your ear. I'd wondered where they'd gone. And then there's one other blanket that I looked at, and I'd been thinking I would get rid of it, but now I don't think I will. It's my C2C blanket that I haven't touched probably for over a year again. So I'd got it to the width that I wanted. And now I've just got to get it to the length that I want. And as you can see, I've done one complete row and maybe half the next row. I had some issues with this. I was doing them, each C2C square was 14 by 14. And I had one that I did 13 on, and it just threw everything out, and I had to sort it out. And I think that's why this got abandoned. So yeah. So again, I think I'm going to keep this. I wasn't going to. I thought I would get rid of it because I hadn't worked on it so long, but once I got it out, it's not been blocked or anything, but it's just so neat and lovely, and so I think I shall keep it. So that's got rid of, what was it, 4. Got rid of 4, kept 2, made a decision to finish 1. So that will take me down to, I've moved everything, so now I've got to find it. That will take me from 35 whips down to 31. And then if I finish that one, it will take me down to 30. It's not quite as exciting as I'd hoped it would be. I'd hoped to get down under the 30, but because I've decided to keep the 2 C2C blankets, I'm not going to. So, yeah. But really, they're scrappy blankets, so they'll just get worked on as and when. Oh, and then I am going to add one in, aren't I? If my friend's habitation throw becomes my friend's mitered square blanket, that sort of cancels each other out, doesn't it? So, yeah, still be 31. Never mind. Doesn't matter. Some of those things are small things. We'll get there in the end, eventually. Right. I've made a horrible mess in here. And now I'm going to talk to you about the shop update. So if that's not something you're interested in, it's been lovely seeing you. And I will see you again next week, where I will try and have some actual knitting done to show you. Although as Dave is home and we're going to be going on days out and stuff, don't expect too much. Right, so if you're leaving, bye. If you're staying, I'll show you the shop update stuff. Right. The Birthstone collection. Back last year, when I decided this is what I was going to do this year instead of a year of yarn, it was what I wanted to do. I had many ideas, and I knew April was going to require some thinking outside the box, because the birthstone for April, in the charts that I've got downloaded anyway, are either diamond or crystal. I'm sorry if you can hear a lot of banging. My neighbour is doing some DIY. And as you can imagine, it's pretty hard to dye something that looks like it's not there. So I did some thinking outside the box, and I thought, how can I portray a diamond? And the thing I love about diamonds is that it refracts the light, and so you get a rainbow inside it. So that's what I did. A speckled rainbow. So that's the variegated. Let me open it and you can see that it moves from one colour to the next. So it goes like a rainbow from red, orange, yellow, green, and then finally blue. The yellow doesn't show up very well on camera, I don't think. It has speckled, possibly not as well as some of the others colours have, but that's the yellow, unfortunately. I think when you knit with it, you will find there's just one stitch, you know, the speckle will just make one stitch, but yeah, it's not going to show up as well as the other colours, unfortunately. So that's diamond. And then, as you probably know, if you've been following along, I've been doing a variegated. That's not going to work, Mandy, you can't do that and talk at the same time. Just put it down there. I've been doing a variegated and a tonal each month, and I thought, well, okay, I figured out the variegated. What the heck am I going to do for a tonal? So I warned you, this month might be slightly different, and in fact it is, because instead of a tonal we have black diamond. I absolutely love this. I'm going to have to dye up a sweater quantity of this for myself. And I had to chuckle a couple of weeks back. My friend Sarah was knitting a Musselburgh, and she dyes yarn, and she had dyed some yarn very, very similar to this. And I didn't like to say, I've done some of that for April. So I didn't steal your idea, Sarah. I promise I had already done it, but great minds and all that. So this does a similar thing, but it looks different because obviously it's over dyed. So you've got orange and pink and green and blue. I didn't put yellow. The reason I didn't put yellow is that when you over dye yellow with black, it comes out looking a sort of an army green and olivey colour, and I thought, we've already got a green, we don't need any more green. So I didn't put the yellow in this one, but I very much love it, and it's sort of varying depths of colour. Now my husband is drilling. Isn't that nice? He knows I'm recording the podcast. Oh dear. Then, as a kind of a bonus, I dyed up this colour. This had been itching in my brain, and so I had to do it. This, and I can't remember what I've called it. Pastel Easter Egg, I think. But I'm sure you can tell. This is inspired by mini eggs. Now the crows are yelling. So there is an extra yarn going into the shop this month. I didn't want to call it mini eggs because it's not a mini, and I thought that would be confusing. It is a full skein. But I've also dyed up, and I'm going to put a picture in here. These are some little pastel mini skeins, and they will come with some little tiny chocolate Easter eggs and some surprise stitch markers that I'm still waiting for the makings of to be delivered, which is annoying because I ordered them from eBay because I thought it would be quicker. It hasn't been quicker. I'm still waiting for them. And then finally, here we go, delving into the drawer again. Is this the right one? No. Is this the right one? No. Or yes? No. It is, of course, the last one. This is the inspiration picture for the Mystery Mini Skeins, Mystery Mini Club this year. This month, April. So they're also going into the shop. All of these are going into the shop on Sunday, which is Easter Sunday. Obviously Easter Monday is a bank holiday, so I won't be able to get anything posted out until sort of middle of next week, should you order. And also the Advent, the second week of the Advent, so days 7 till 12? Yes, days 7 to 12 will be going into the shop on Sunday, and days 1 to 6 will be coming out. I will leave 1 to 6 in until Monday if I remember, and take them out on Monday. Basically, I have a limited amount of Advents, and so what I'm hoping is that people will not just order an odd week here and there. If they do, it's not a problem, I can deal with it. But if you were wanting to buy the Advent a week at a time and you've missed the first week, I'm going to leave it in for an extra day so that you can catch up. That's everything, I think. 48 minutes, good grief. Now the dog's barking next door. We've had neighbours, husbands, birds and dogs. What else is there left? Right, I'm going to go now. I'm going to suggest to my husband that whatever he was doing while I was recording my podcast maybe wasn't his best idea ever, and I'm going to clear up the mess that I've made. That might take some time, and I will see you again next week. Sorry, I just caught sight of something, and it just I had a squirrel moment. Now Ewan's creaking around outside the door. I'm going to go because this is like some kind of ADHD nightmare now. I'm going. I will see you next week. Have a lovely Easter, and don't make yourself sick with chocolate. Unless you want to, in which case go for it. Bye guys.